Hi, I'm Jacob Volk, and today I'm doing a Let's Play game for Gears of War 4. Today I'm going to argue that violent video games affect the aggressive behavior of the player, um, and I'm going to see if they affect the community as a whole. This game is the fifth addition to the Gears of War franchise and has been a very successful game in the recreational and competitive gaming communities. Played on the Xbox One console, this game is both for single player or multiplayer and has online multiplayer functions. Gears of War 4, or GOW 4, takes place on a foreign planet that the COG, or Coalition of Gears, inhabit. The game takes place 25 years after a long war against the Locust Swarm that had been living underneath the planet's surface that you are currently living on, and rose up to fight against the COG in something called the Emergence Day. You are James Phoenix, the son of famous war hero Marcus Phoenix, who is the main character from the previous games. You're investigating the rise of the enemy called the Swarm that resembles the Locust and are actually reincarnated from the dead Locust bodies. Through the game, you fight your way to the Swarm Hive to find out how this is happening and how you can stop it. I am currently playing an act in the middle of the game where I have just rescued my dad Marcus from a Swarm capture. We are now trying to escape through a mining shaft that we came down to get him to find Kate's mother and explore the Swarm's rise. As you notice, the game mechanics are very different from most games. First of all, it's a third-person game. It's not often do you see third-person shooters in this day and age. You actually have the ability to bounce between the walls and cover, which is unique to Gears of War. Some players who get good at this can actually glide between walls, and that's how they fight online, called wall bouncing. There are multiple kill animations for different guns and situations, such as being able to use a chainsaw to cut your enemies in half or pulling them over barriers to stab them with your knife. Throughout the game, you can find collectibles around the levels and learn more about the game's history. It's a linear campaign, making it easy to navigate and more fun for the player because all they have to do is point and shoot. By reading A Definition for Games, Meaningful Play by Mark Chen, I believe that this is a game that meets his definition and is in fact a game. It is engaging and thought-provoking, offering choices and giving you the opinion to choose your movements and how to defeat your enemies. This is shown even more when you play multiplayer and you're on a team with the only goal to defeat the other team, using any tactics or way of killing the other players you wish. The Gears of War series uses transmedia storytelling to tell the story of the universe that you're playing in. It is told over multiple games that both tell the story in a linear way, as well as having prequel games to the current storyline. There are also collectibles throughout the games, such as that I mentioned earlier, that give you information on the history of the wars that you were fighting in and the characters that you were playing as. Outside of the games, you can find multiple books that cover the stories in the games in much more depth, as well as stories that connect to the games and give you history about them. Now, how do violent video games affect the player, and how can it affect our society? How is this shown through Gears of War 4, which is a very violent video game? To help me find out how violent video games affect people, I found some studies that were completed with the goal to find this out. From the article, the effects of the presence and context of violent video games of video games violence on children, a longitudinal study in Japan found that violent video games are often criticized for their negative and often violent effects on those who play them. Studies over the years have tested to see if violent games do develop violence in those who play them. Mixed results showed an increase in male aggression, but not in female players. Another article called Effects of Violent Video Games on Aggressive Behavior, Aggressive Cognition, Aggressive Affect, Psychological Arousal, and Prosocial Behavior found that exposure to violent games and receiving reward for violent actions exhibit increased aggressive behavior. But the study also found that playing a violent video game, regardless of wherever the game rewards or punishes violence, increases aggressive effect relative to playing a non-violent video game. However, playing in a game where violent actions are punished does not produce significantly more or less aggressive thought or behavior than playing a non-violent version of the same game. Basically, this is saying that playing a pure shooter or fighting game like Gears of War 4 has shown to increase aggressive behavior because the goal of the game is to be violent and kill your enemies. But if you are playing a game in which you are not supposed to be violent in, but choose to do so anyway, you are less aggressive. I completely agree with this statement because I see myself getting very angry when I die in Gears of War 4. This is especially obvious when I played multiplayer online, which is extremely competitive. Everyone is not only playing to win the game, but they are also playing to have the best stats possible. You always want to have the highest kill-death ratio in the lobby, and people get vocally angry when kills are stolen. The competitive community for this game, in general, is very aggressive. There are a lot of trash talking, and people try to get a competitive edge, however, or any way possible. People will even go out of their way to steal other people's kills to improve their own stats, which is very frustrating for everyone. In conclusion, I found that violent video games do in fact change the way that you act and can make you more aggressive, but there is nothing to show that that aggression is long term and could affect anyone for the long term. Of course, there are outliers, for instance, but where this has happened, it is just an outlier and cannot be proven that the game has made them act like this long term. What I'm saying is that if you are okay with getting angry at the game, you should be okay, and it should not affect the society as a whole. It will just be temporary. Thank you very much for watching my Let's Play of Gears of War 4.